Katera Rising by J.D. Evergreen. Chapter 6. Intense throbbing pulses through my battered body, and I squint through slitted eyes. The light is so bright I ram them shut. I squirm, and a searing pain bursts through my leg. An involuntary whimper escapes me as I roll over to see where I am, and why I'm not dead yet. The lights are too bright, blurring my vision as I struggle to sit up. My aching muscles scream in protest. I finally reach my elbows when a massive hand shoves me back onto my pillow.
"Stay still,"
grunts a rough male voice. I squint, trying to focus on the owner of the giant hand. Slowly my pounding head adjusts to the light in the room, and I can see the man in front of me. He still stands with his arm outstretched, ready to thwart any further attempts at getting up. He is so tall I have to hold my head at an awkward angle just to look up at his face. His charcoal hair is cut close to his scalp, except for a thick strip about an inch long that runs down the center of his head. My gaze moves over his broad face, dark brown eyes, and stubble-covered jawline. A dark web tattoo covers one side of the man's neck, most of it trailing under his light green shirt. He is enormous, easily 6 foot tall, and so muscular he looks like he could walk through a stone wall and think nothing of it. I do not fail to notice the long broadsword that hangs from his hip. The whole image is of an intimidating man that knows he is powerful. A vague twinge of memory tugs at me. Before I have a chance to delve into that thought, a woman enters the room, carrying a woven basket loaded with items. A sword hangs at her hip, and she walks with a natural grace that demands attention. The man removes his hand from my shoulder and stands to attention while eyeing the basket in the woman's arms. The man points at me, his face crushed into a sneer like I'm some sort of disgusting animal.
"Surely you don't mean to use that on her?"
The woman crosses the room and stands before me. "Yes, I do," she replies calmly.
"She is an outsider and could be a spy. Even if she is not, blood loss or infection will kill her anyway, and that's only if she survives the toxins from the acid first. If I were in charge, I wouldn't waste precious resources on her,"
spits the man. "You are not in charge," the woman replies curtly. "In any case, she saved Oscar." The man holds out his arm, gesturing at me wildly, spit flying from his mouth.
"She led the beast right to him."
The woman sets the basket on the floor next to me and rises to her full height, which is about the height of the huge man's shoulder. She places her hand on the hilt of her sword in a casual gesture. I don't doubt she knows how to use it. "We were both there. I recall her running towards the beast when she could have run away from it. The man eyes the woman and the veins in his neck throb, but he seems to realize this is a fight he won't win.
"Yes, Alexandra."
Alexandra's jaw clenches, and she turns her back to the man. "Go eat, Nathaniel. You must stay strong." The dismissal is apparent in her voice. The man nods and stomps towards a curtain. Before he reaches it, the woman adds, "Nathaniel, do not call me Alexandra. You know I hate it." Nathaniel throws a final disapproving glance in my direction as he tosses the material aside and steps through the doorway.
"Yes, I do."
He disappears from sight, and the woman releases a small sigh as she shakes her head slowly. I find I am glad he is gone. Alexandra kneels beside me and takes a wet cloth from the basket. She folds it and wipes the blood from my face. She doesn't speak as she cleans my wounds, and while working, her dark brown hair falls forward, gentle waves framing her face. Gently she presses the fabric to the back of my head, and the pressure makes my eyes hurt and my world spin. The cloth withdraws, and I eye the sticky blood coating it. The woman looks at the fabric and then leans over to scrutinize the head wound more closely. "They're swollen stitches." She leans back as if to assess my response. Vibrant green eyes search mine. I'm pretty sure I have never seen that color green before, and I stare for far too long, lost in the emerald depths. The woman's eyebrows knit together. "Claire, your head wound needs stitches." She remembers my name. A smile creeps onto my face, and the woman looks at me, her eyebrows furrowed. My response probably makes me look like my head wound has sent me loopy. Alexandra tries again. "Claire." I wet my lips and try to speak, but all that comes out is a croak. The woman turns to her basket, searches through it, and pulls out a water skin. Patiently, she holds it to my lips while I drink. The water soothes my dry throat, leaving a cool trail all the way to my chest. I clear my throat and the crackle leaves my voice. Okay. A tanned hand presses against my forehead.
You are warm. The acid you have in your leg is nasty, and you are in for a rough few days as it works through your system.
I nod and try not to think about the way my eyes focus on her lips as she speaks. She pulls another smaller water skin out of her basket.
You must drink this 3 times a day to help your body fight the acid. It can get nasty if it is not treated properly.
She pours a small measure of purple liquid into a tiny metal cup and holds it out to me. I squint at the woman and my head pounds in sync with my heartbeat. Who are you? She eyes me and I sit up, taking the cup from her tanned hand. I sniff the liquid. It is strangely odorless. I drink it in one go and it burns the whole way down. I let out a small cough and hastily put the cup down on the bed beside me, out of the way, in case she decides I need another dose of the foul liquid. The woman removes her hand and collects a needle and thread.
You can call me Lexa.
Hello, Lexa, I say and hold out my hand. She smiles and clasps my forearm.
Hello, Claire.
Lexa rises to her feet and climbs onto the bed behind me. She settles with her knees pressed against the small of my back, and I shuffle uncomfortably. How was the boy? I ask. Lexa parts my hair around the wound gently.
Oscar is well. Although he may not thank me for all the survival drills I am about to put him through.
My lips curl at her remark. It is probably for the best. He was frozen to the spot.
Yes, and of little help to you. If Oscar is going to patrol the caves, he needs to learn to respond in frightening situations.
The back of my head burns as the needle is forced through the tender skin. I am lucky Lexa is quick. Within minutes she is back in my vision, and she rummages through the basket and holds out some kind of yellow-green moss.
Eat this.
I take the moss in my hand. What is it? Lexa moves to my arm and wipes around the bracer, trying to get a look at the injury without aggravating it further.
It will taste awful and make you feel tired, but it will help with the pain.
I look at the twisted lump of moss and crinkle my nose at the moist, spongy chunk in my hand. Who was the insane person who first decided to put this lumpy wet thing in their mouth? I can honestly say I never would have thought to eat it. I hesitate, but Lexa watches me intently, and I have no choice. I lift the moss to my mouth and bite down. The grainy texture spreads over my tongue and gets caught between my teeth. Bitter liquid follows the grains, sweeping through my mouth and sticking everywhere it pleases. Almost like its very goal is to make whoever dares to eat it as uncomfortable as possible. Lexa gives me a small smile.
I told you it was awful.
She holds out the water canteen and I take a grateful gulp, doing my best to rinse my mouth with the liquid. Lexa peels off my sticky bracer and inspects the wounds there.
So, how did you end up surrounded by 3 dead Scarlet Guards and a Cerebi?
I let out a wry smile. I was taking a stroll. Lexa eyes me.
You were taking a stroll.
Yes, as fast as I could away from the compound. Alexa smirks.
And those guards, they took a stroll with you?
I sigh. No. They caught up with me, and they weren't all that happy about my late-night walk.
I cannot imagine they were. You fought well. Outnumbered as you were, I am impressed you took out 3 guards and a Cerebi in the time it took for us to respond to Oscar's alarm.
I look at Lexa and fidget with the hem of the blanket draped across my lap. More will come. The dark-haired woman half shrugs.
My experience with these matters has shown a constant trend. The guards tend not to care about people who escape after the first day or 2.
I look at her and can't make myself believe her words. Catherine's comment about my lineage and my mother being detained rather than executed makes me think it won't be easy. For some reason, Emperor Darkmoor wants my mother and me. I don't think this time will be the same, I mutter, inspecting the dirt under my fingernails with displeasure. Emerald green eyes look up from their work.
What makes you say that?
I shift uncomfortably. I like Lexa. I cannot deny there is a certain connection, but certain information in the hands of the wrong people could be very dangerous for me. Emperor has offered handsome rewards for things he has wanted to acquire in the past. I don't really want to become his newest acquisition. I am a prime gladiator, I say. Lexa looks at me intently before sighing and putting the needle away, and I realize with a jolt she has sutured my arm and that I hadn't even been aware. I glance back at the twisted lump of moss in my hand and cram the rest in my mouth. She shifts so we are facing one another.
The bodies have been moved and buried far from here. No one will find us.
I nod and search for a way to thank the woman in front of me. Words seem oddly insufficient. Instead, I let out a huge yawn. Well, that moss works fast. Lexa watches my struggle and a small smile grows on her face.
You are safe here with the rebels, and you are protected. Now get some rest.
I blink at the woman. Did she intend for resting to sound like an order? She places a hand on my shoulder and gently guides me back onto the bed. The blanket is so warm and the bed so inviting that sleep overcomes me. I fade in and out of consciousness, waking long enough to sip water and drink a few mouthfuls of the purple liquid. Always I awake to a different person. A part of me registers I haven't seen Lexa since our initial encounter, and I feel a tickle of disappointment. I don't know how long I spend fading in and out of consciousness, but I suspect the drink they are having me take at each waking is the primary cause. When I wake up this time, I am much better. I cannot ever remember feeling so rested. It is amazing to think I had to flee in the dark of night and almost get mauled to death before I could get such a rest. Groggily I sit up and brief pain bursts through my leg. Moving aside the blanket, I discover my armor has been removed and I'm only wearing my shorts and a tank top. My cheeks heat as my mind wonders, without my permission, if it was Lexa who had removed my clothes. I shake my head. You are walking a dangerous path here, Claire, I mutter to myself, and I inspect the wounds I collected during my escape from the compound. The cut on my calf has healed well, and the stitches in it look ready to come out. My right thigh is covered in a purple moss and held in place with a tight linen bandage. I am covered in an array of small scab scratches from the compound fence. To be honest, these aren't the worst injuries I have ever had. I sit up and peer at the rugged walls surrounding me and note the uneven scrapes and rounded corners. I touch the rough wall, and a tiny amount of dirt comes loose under the pressure of my hand, the little grains falling to the ground without a sound. The room is lit by small glowing crystals pushed into the walls around the space. I inspect the closest crystal, which is about the size of my fist and emits a dim light. I don't see any wires or cables of any kind. I've never seen anything like this. How are they powered? It doesn't look like the kind of electric lights they have in the infirmary at the compound. I turn my attention from the wall to find my leather armor on a stone table near the bed and my bag on the floor beside it. I cannot see my weapons, which, to be honest, isn't surprising. I drop my legs over the side of the bed and get up, groaning as I move. I flex my tight legs, and it takes a few minutes to work a little flexibility into them. Lying in a bed after a long run through a cold cavern is never a good idea. I should have made an effort to stretch. I limp over to my armor and pick it up. I turn the familiar leather in my hands. My bracer and pants have been cleaned and mended with patches of dark brown leather. I pull them on, thankful to whoever had repaired them. I pick up my vest and pause. The fastenings on my vest have changed from round stones to large canine teeth. I stare at the jacket, trying to figure out where they had come from. I get a flashback of teeth snapping close to my face and am reminded of foul breath. I look back at the fastenings and find new meaning there.
We found them in your bracer,
Comes a voice from the doorway.
It would seem the Cerebi left you a present.
I look up from the vest and find the source of the voice. A woman leaning in the doorway, her arms crossed and a smile playing on her lips. Lexa, I greet my heart, completing a strange leap in my chest. I shift awkwardly and hold up my armor. Do you know who repaired these? I would like to thank them. Lexa nods.
It was Tash who restored your armor. I will take you to her. But first you must eat, and then perhaps bathe.
My stomach rumbles loudly in response to Lexa's comment, almost as if it is trying to prove her point. Sighing at my body's betrayal, I nod and finish strapping my armor to my body and walk over to Lexa. She leads me out the door, and I berate myself for not thanking her. Lexa, I say, surprising myself. Lexa stops in a busy hall and patiently waits for me to speak. Of what you did, thank you. I finish lamely. Well, I suppose it's better than nothing. Lexa nods.
No need to mention it. I'm sure if our places were reversed, you would have offered me the same courtesy.
I agree with her words, but at the same time, knowing what I would have done doesn't seem like enough. I follow her through the labyrinth of underground corridors. The curved roofs are a style I have never encountered before, and the many rooms house small groups of people. The space they share looks bigger than the cell I grew up in. Each entryway is graced with a curtain of a woven plant of some kind, which can be pulled across to grant its occupants a measure of privacy. Gems like the ones I had seen earlier pushed into the walls and light the corridor. How did they build a place like this without Emperor Darkmoor realizing? Surely the dirt from the digging must go somewhere. I look at the woman beside me. Lexa, why did the crystals glow? Lexa raises an eyebrow and gives me a sidelong glance.
They are a special type of crystal. Our ancestors were said to possess magical abilities. Some of them could place a portion of their magic into crystals.
I know magic is real. I had seen Emperor Darkmoor wield it, and my own mother had told me stories of people with magical abilities. But how could something as ordinary as a gem hold power? I fiddle with a tooth on my vest. Our ancestors put their powers into crystals? Lexa looks at me and seems to decide I legitimately don't know the answer.
Yes, many songs are sung of it, but they all come with a caution. For there was a man who once poured his magic into crystals and used them to corrupt people's minds in his quest to control them.
They don't sound like pleasant tales, I say with a frown. Lexa turns another corner.
All types of power are easily corrupted. Unpleasant tales are better than reliving the past.
I can find no argument with her words and return to watching the people around us interact. People come and leave as they please, and the general atmosphere is of happiness and purpose. These people are different from the ones I grew up with in my cell. A small blonde girl runs up to a woman with curly red hair. The woman scoops her up and swings her in a circle. The small girl laughs with delight and wriggles her legs happily. Her smile is one of pure joy as she carries her daughter back into a room where a smiling blonde woman greets them with a hug and a tender kiss. Together they walk into the room. I can't help but notice other families and couples walking together in the hall. Of course, we had families and couples in our cells. There is very little privacy, and it is difficult to be completely unaware of people coupling. Many children are born, and women are often given leave to nurse them. After all, how would the Empire get more slaves if it didn't allow us to reproduce? But these people haven't given up hope of living. They are genuinely happy. The sounds of the happy family fade as we make our way towards a large entryway. The scent of a well-cooked meal fills my senses. Lexa leads me in and reveals a room far more extensive than the one I awoke in. This room holds many long tables and benches. I inspect the closest one and find it's made of hardened mud. So are the seats around it. The cooking stove, the serving table, everything is made from packed and hardened soil. Well, that explains what they did with some of the dirt they dug out of the tunnels. The people nearest to us eat from trays of food, speaking merrily to their neighbors. It is evident from the dirt on their skin and clothes that some of them have labor-intensive jobs, but still they laugh and chat with the people beside them. Lexa leads me to a line on the room's far side where people are handing out food trays. A smile spreads across my face, and pace by pace we work our way up the line and receive plates of our own. People nod and show great respect to Lexa as she passes. Many cast curious, lingering gazes at me as I follow behind her. Their looks don't bother me for too long, as my attention is drawn to the tray in my hands. A slice of hot bread, a thick stew, and a hunk of cheese fills the plate, making my stomach rumble. I have never seen so much food all at once, and hot food is so rare. I can count on my fingers the amount of times I've had it. My stomach rumbles at the delightful scent, and I struggle not to eat from my tray before I even sit. Lexa, where am I? I ask, almost overwhelmed by all the freedom and luxury around me. Lexa pauses for a moment as she considers her answer.
A place where you are safe, a place where there is still hope.
I accept her answer as one for someone she is not sure she can trust. We weave our way through the seated people and reach a table where I happily flop onto a bench. The people around us greet Lexa and spare a glance at me before they return to their meals and conversations. I attack my food with vigor, my spoon making quick trips to my mouth before returning to my bowl to collect another load. It had been a long few days, and I hadn't eaten anything since before my last gladiator match. Even then, it had been a small slice of stale bread, a lump of cold, unidentifiable meat, and water. Within minutes I have eaten my entire meal, and I'm using the last of my bread to scrape my plate clean. I inspect the bowl closely, ensuring I have not missed any morsels. It is so clean it looks like food has never rested upon it. Silence draws my attention from my squeaky clean bowl, and I look up to find the entire table staring at me with their mouths open. My cheeks turn red as heat spreads through them. I stare silently at my empty tray, trying to avoid the faces of the people around me. My stomach rumbles louder than before, in a desperate attempt to embarrass me further. A few people chuckle in response. Groaning, I lean forward, putting my face in my hands. I have survived the Cerebi just to die from humiliation. A movement from nearby catches my attention, and a nearly full tray slides into view. I pull my face from my hands to see Lexa's hand retreating from the dish now in front of me.
Eat this.
Lexa commands. The whole table is totally silent, watching our interaction. I look at Lexa's green eyes. I'm sure refusal will be seen as rude. Plus, I really want it. Are you sure? Lexa nods and pushes the tray closer.
You are hungry and healing.
Thank you. Lexa nods once more, and I pick up my spoon, forcing myself to eat at a more respectable pace than before. The atmosphere around the table relaxes as everyone returns to their food and talks to their neighbors, occasionally sending a glance my way, probably to make sure I haven't eaten the metal trays too. After I have finished my second helping, Lexa leads me back into the labyrinth of corridors.
The bathrooms are near the room you were treated in. We are lucky there is a natural spring there, and the water flows freely. It is clean but cool. If you wish for a hot bath, there are tubs, but you must haul and heat your own water.
That seems fair. Lexa leads me into the room, and I see the promised spring. There are 4 baths made from well-fitted stone bricks and some kind of adhesive. The tubs are surprisingly well put together, and even look comfortable. Considering the stone walls that had made my cell, this is a work of exceptional skill and talent. All the baths have some sort of privacy curtain, made of what I suspect is a skin of some kind. At the back of the room, in a hearth, sits an orange crystal with smooth, glossy edges. Lexa steps into the room beside me and gestures at the hip-high gem.
We don't have the resources to use wood for fire, as we have few ways of acquiring it. This is another one of those crystals I told you about. It produces heat. Take care not to touch it. It will burn you.
Do you have many of these crystals? I ask. Lexa nods.
We are fortunate enough to have elders here that remember the old ways. Some of them have the gift to imbue the crystals themselves, but we discourage it as it comes with a cost to their health. Others we have recovered.
I make my way to the spring and Lexa helps me to collect water in buckets. You mean people here can do magic?
Not everybody has the gift, and the people who do have a weakened form. From the stories I have heard, the gift was once quite powerful.
Lexa speaks of gifted people as if they appear regularly. Why have I never met someone gifted? Lexa looks at me.
But you had control over thousands of beings, and that control came from your twisted use of the gift. Would you allow it to grow in others?
It takes me a moment to comprehend her words. Emperor Darkmoor kills them?
Yes, the gifted either hide their secret well, or they die.
I haul 2 buckets to the gem and place them beside it. I am surprised by its warmth. Even with Lex's explanation, I am still bewildered that a crystal can give off heat. I hold my hands out in front of it and warm them. I don't get too close. From this distance, I can feel the intense heat and the danger that comes with it. Do you have to do anything to it to keep it hot? I ask. Lexa drops 2 other buckets beside the gem.
No. Once a crystal is imbued with magic, it will serve the intended purpose until it is destroyed.
I return to the pool and haul a few buckets of cold water over to the tub. How do you know so much? Lexa takes buckets over to her own tub.
Our recovery efforts are not just limited to crystals.
I wait, but she offers nothing further. Curiosity burns inside me, but I know she has already answered a lot of my questions, and I am aware of how little I have given in return. Is there anything you wish to know from me? Lexa pauses and ponders the question.
How did you escape?
I told the guards I wanted to train. I tricked my guard into leaving me unattended and escaped through a small hole in the fence. I was spotted by a guard on patrol and pursued. The rest you know. Lexa is quick to fire another question.
What prompted you to leave?
I want to say the treatment, but that had been happening every day since I was captured, and I had never tried to escape before now. I look away from her, and at the floor, my mouth pulls into a tight line. I resolve that a portion of truth is the best course of action. I do my best to keep my voice from wavering. My mother went for a review. She didn't come back. Lexa pauses and gives me a look of genuine remorse.
I am sorry, Claire.
I nod but keep my silence. The pain of losing my mother and the torment she must be going through prickles at my eyes. I am worried my voice will betray me. Lexa clears her throat and points to a bench.
You will find soaps over there. We make what we can from meat fats and plants that grow around here.
I make my way over to the soaps and a group of women enter the room, chatting as they herd in a group of young children. I turn my attention to the soap. There are 2 bowls of waxy flakes to choose from, one purple and one green. I sniff the container of green soap and an overbearing floral scent floods my nose. I sneeze and quickly put it back on the bench. I reach for the purple flakes and take a smaller, more hesitant sniff. The scent of this one is less overpowering, more earthy, certainly better. I look around, unsure of how much I am supposed to use. Lexa comes over, takes a small handful of purple flakes, and sprinkles it into the water. I look back at the bowl of purple flakes and repeat Lexa's actions. I collect my buckets from the hearth and lug them over to the bath. I pour the steaming water into the tub and mix in buckets of cold water until I find a pleasant temperature. I pull the screen shut and carefully pull my armor and clothes off. I cannot help but notice the state of my poor battered body as I stand in only my undergarments and the bandage on my leg and arm. The bruising on my chest from my battle in the arena has turned into black and purple blotches. I consider the water and my bandages. Am I supposed to take them off first? I fumble with the bandage on my leg, looking for the place where it is tied off. A throat clears on the other side of the privacy curtain.
Claire, would you like help with your bandages?
Lexa asks.
Clean dressings are being brought in for after your bath.
My fingers struggle with a tight knot holding the bandage in place, and I let out a slow, controlled breath. Yes, I reply, fighting to keep the frustration from my voice. Please, I add. Alexa slides in through the opening in the curtain, a pile of neatly folded clothes in her hands, and seems surprised to see me already undressed. She quickly looks away and sets her jaw. I can see the muscles working from here.
Apologies, I did not realize you had taken your shorts and shirt off.
Alexa says as she stares resolutely at the curtain. I look down at myself. I hadn't even considered that my state of undress would make people uncomfortable. I had shared a cell with at least a dozen people my whole life. There is no measure of privacy in those kinds of conditions. Sorry, I stammer, stooping to collect the shirt I had unceremoniously dumped on the ground. I can get dressed. Alexa squares her shoulders and shakes her head softly.
No, it is okay.
With that, she walks over and begins removing the bandage from my arm. We stand in silence while Alexa works. Finally, my arm is free and looks like it is healing well. 6 separate stitches hold together deep puncture wounds. It will be an interesting scar.
I believe we can leave this uncovered if you are careful to keep it clean.
Lexa remarks, placing the soiled linen bandage in a small basket I hadn't noticed earlier, and the moss padding in a pile beside it. Then she gets to her knees in front of me and begins working on the bandage covering my right thigh. I shift. I should have put my shorts back on. This is more awkward than I had realized it would be. It certainly doesn't help that she is an exceedingly beautiful woman. I stare at the curtain and listen to the women teaching the children to swim in the pool on the other side, trying desperately not to think about the soft hands touching my thigh. Finally, it is over, and I step away and inspect my wound in a way I hope isn't awkward. Well, any more awkward than I have already made this whole situation. It was stupid to have not put my clothes back on. Lexa rises to her feet.
Your burn will sting in the water, but it will be good for it.
With that, she turns and leaves, ensuring the curtain is closed tight behind her. I close my eyes and take a slow breath. Well, that could have been less awkward. I remove the necklace from the makeshift pocket in my shorts and drape it around my neck for safekeeping. I pull off my undergarments and stand at the edge of the steaming water. Hesitantly, I lift my leg into the bath. The warmth of the water almost stings, and I grit my teeth and force myself into the tub. After a few moments, my tense muscles relax, and I take a deep breath as I conclude that I may be a fan of hot baths. Having never had one before, the sensation is completely new, but not at all unpleasant. I eye a strip of linen cloth draped over the small stone bench next to the bath, and I happily scrub myself clean with it. I hold my hand out to the light and marvel at how bright my skin has become. It is strange to see it without any trace of dirt or grime. It seems weirdly pale. I lean back in the tub with a sigh. The steam rises around me in great billows, twisting and dancing in the breeze. My mother would have loved this. The thought comes unbidden, and I bite my lip to quiet a sob that threatens to break free at the thought of my mother. What are they doing to her? I let out a soft sob, and the prickle of tears finally flow free. The bath water has cooled when I finally climb out, and a cloth is thrown over my privacy screen.
Dry yourself with this,
Lexa says in a quiet voice. I take the cloth and use it to dry myself before I quickly dress, using the pants and shirt from the pile Lexa had brought in with her. I ensure my necklace is tucked under my armor and hidden from sight before I draw back the privacy screen. Lexa is sitting with her feet dipped into the spring, quietly chatting with a group of women. I look back at my bathwater and am appalled at how dark it is. Had I truly been carrying around all that? I look at the filthy tub water. Where am I supposed to empty it? I walk around the tub, inspecting it, and my foot slips into a divot. This channel runs under each of the bathtubs and out through a hole in the wall. I pull a plug made of some kind of spongy material from the base of the bath and watch as the water splashes out into the channel and out through the hole. I return my buckets to the pile, ready to be used again, and fold my filthy, tattered clothes. I debate what to do with the drying cloth when I spot Lexa washing hers in the bubbling spring. I take mine over and do my best to mimic Lexa's actions, and when she rises to hang hers on a line, I follow her. Lexa corrects the way I hang my cloth.
How was your bath?
I get the feeling there is a hidden meaning in her question. I feel better after it. She nods to me and bids farewell to the women.
I will take you to the room that has been assigned to you.
I follow her out the corridor and we walk in silence. We turn down a familiar hall and a long droning sound screams in the air around us. Not a minute passes before another siren joins it, and they screech their awful song together. I look around, searching for the source of the sound as it echoes throughout the hall. The rise and fall of the sirens brings everyone to a standstill. People around me respond to the siren before I can even figure out where it is coming from. Individuals group up and hurry down the hall. Many draw weapons, others shout orders, and within a few seconds, a line of people quietly hasten down the corridor. Their actions are well practiced. Surely Lexa must know what is happening. I look at the woman next to me, glancing over her stiff posture and rigid muscles. A sinking sensation builds heavy in the pit of my stomach. Something tells me this is not a drill. That's the end of Chapter 6, A Fragile Refuge. Claire may have found safety for now, but how long can it last? And can she really trust the rebels or Lexa? New chapters of Katera Rising are released every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're enjoying the story, leaving a comment or sharing with a friend really helps. What do you think? Will the rebels truly protect Claire, or will her past catch up with her? And what's your take on Lexa? Friend, foe, or something more?